Hello everybody, Mannozzi Munchkin back again. Hopefully you just came from my first video that I released today. This is gonna be the part number 2 of the Eberron Rising from the Last War First Impressions review, whatever you wanna consider it, video series. The newest official book that got released on DnDBeyond just, I think, yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, before I delve into the topic of this video, as you can see from the title, I'm gonna be talking about the Artificer and touch a little bit upon the treasures, you know, magic items and all of that fancy stuff. First and foremost, as I usually do at the beginning of all of my videos, Patreon shoutouts. So Mike, Matthew, Ewing, Larry, Hocken, BardlyManHardlyTrying, Rogor, Jared Henderson, Kaleron, SuburbanHell, Frank Fan, Albert Kwak, Aidan Harth, Darth Xín, Gary Kors, Brad Oldham, Joel C Alcazar, Bredwin, ya boy Fox, Bryan Moten, Sean, guise, Mannozzi Stefano, Adekoya, Zeb McCubbin, Nathan James, PrimalBassBoost, bittenbi, Kyle, Shykes, Trevor Green, Gaston Ramirez, Jordan Smith Bassett, Lloyd, Lord Gazda, Anthony Doe, Devin Yak, I don't know. You have to tell me in the comments down below if you're listening to my video. How do I actually pronounce your last name? Sorry for butchering it. Anyway, Twain Hudgens, Lunatic Dragon, thank you for your support, all new and old patrons. You are giving me motivation to keep uploading videos at increased pace that I've been doing recently and lighting the fire out below my ass. Thank you for that. And for all of you other people who don't see your names on this list, if you want to see it by supporting me on Patreon, the option is always there. It's not gonna be mandatory ever. However, if you're willing and if you think I'm worth it, you know, chuck a buck my way. Or if you are, you know, if you're willing to invest a little bit more, there are these higher end tiers, pledges that give you additional perks and benefits. As you can see, I upload the files and notes for all of my videos, builds and class previews on my Patreon page. So, you know, if you want to get those, download those, you can just watch the video, or, you know, just download them if you choose to do so by pledging on these tiers. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's quickly and right away get into the topic of this video, which is gonna be primarily around the Artificer class, which is now no longer considered to be unearthed arcana. It is now official. So, even though many things are same or similar to what we had in the newest revisited iteration of Artificer that's been released at the beginning of this year for playtest, you know, as Unearthed Arcana. Now, there are a lot of changes that Wizards of the Coast made to the class, and I'm gonna kind of quickly go over each and every one of those. Now, multiclassing and, you know, all of these other optional rules, they are pretty much the same. One thing, you know, that's sort of important that I don't think it's obvious and apparent at first. If you go check the table, you will see that Artificers gets their spellcasting feature at the right away at level 1. They get 2 cantrips they know, 2 spells, and they can prepare some of them. That also means that when you multiclass, even though they are considered to be half-casters, instead of rounding down the levels of the class, you instead round it up when determining the total amount of slots that you get by multiclassing into other spellcasting classes. That is an interesting thing to have, you know. That means that you are on average have more slots to play with instead of having less slots that you have with rangers and paladins typically, right? And you know, that is still the same thing, but that's certainly relevant, and I think keeping that thing instead of being nerfed to the way that paladins and rangers do, I think that's a good thing, because paladins specifically are one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful class in the game in terms of the thing they can do. And yeah, so in that case, Artificers do need at least a little bit of something to keep up. Now, starting proficiencies and gear and all of that stuff, as well as level 1 features, magical tinkering and spellcasting, it's pretty much the same all across the board. No changes other than certain words were changed, maybe for better clarity so that it provides less confusion. You still need tools the same way you needed them before. There's the magic of artifice, so it's pretty much the same thing as it was before. So pretty much all of this is copy-pasted from Artificer Unearthed Arcana. And yeah, that's sort of it. Now, item infusions, the infuse item feature, which you get at level 2, is also the same thing. Oh yeah, before I jump into that, one important thing in terms of spellcasting is the fact that, yeah, sure, you have mostly the same spells. However, one spell in particular that I'm a little bit sad to see that it's no longer in the list of spells is the Arcane Weapon, which was actually the spell that came with the Unearthed Arcana playtest material, so it wasn't official, obviously. And they decided to scratch it. There's actually a good reason, maybe a good reason why they decided to do so, because a level 5 Unearthed Arcana Artificer had basically the Arcane Armament, which was the extra attack. They could attack twice instead of once. It was a core class feature. It is no longer a core class feature. Artificers at level 5 get a subclass feature, so every Artificer based on the subclass at level 5, it's gonna have a different feature that they get. So for that reason, or maybe for some other reason, they decided to remove. To be perfectly honest with you, I didn't really studiously and meticulously skim through the list of spells that you get and compare it to the list of spells that you had before, but in terms of cantrips and first level spells, it's pretty much identical, so I don't think they made any significant changes here. Maybe remove a spell. We still have Revivify, we still have Aid, we still have, you know, Lemon, Secret Chest, whatever, Wall of Stone, Greater Resto, Big Beast Hand, Animate Objects. So all of those, like, good spells, important spells, thematic spells that actually make sense for the class and make it, you know, keep up with other classes and make it relevant, you know, either through support features or combat-oriented features, defensively or offensively. They are still on the list of spells, so there are no significant changes or nerfs in that department. However, there is one significant change in the level 2 feature, the infuse item, which is still called the same. You still gain the basic like sub features that you get with this basic feature. However, one thing that changed specifically is that you know more of these. So you start out at level 2, you get the feature infuse item, and you immediately learn 4 of them. So you learn how to make 4 magic items instead of knowing only 3 of them. The number of active magic items that you can have at any present time during the adventuring day or during your whatever you're doing is still 2 at level 2. However, it progressively gets up to 6. So at level, I think it's level 7. No, it's actually level 18. You can have a total of 6 active magic items that you can make for yourself, right? And also you can learn 12. That's the maximum amount of magic items that you can now learn with the official release, compared to 8, which the number of magic items that you could know before, and when it was Unearthed Arcana playtest material. I think this is a welcome buff. This is definitely an improvement. This is gonna make the class more powerful at higher levels, and I think that's a good thing. It did kind of feel interesting because even in its Unearthed Arcana playtest iteration, it still felt like it could do interesting, useful, powerful stuff. But now it's definitely gonna be competitive with other classes, namely Paladins, you know, because Paladins are kind of like the definition of a well-designed, even like slightly bit more powerful half-caster, you know, class with good features, offensive, defensive, and Artificers are definitely gonna be in a different way on par with Paladins, you know, at least in terms of the stuff they can do. More versatility maybe, but definitely gonna be effective party members. Magical Tinkering, as I said, and all of that stuff is pretty much the same. Level 3, they get their specialist features, and they get the right tool for the job. Now, the Unearthed Arcana Artificer had tool expertise. That has been moved to level 6 for the official release. I think that's kind of a good thing because tool expertise is kind of too early. It's kind of too early to get proficiency to double the proficiency bonus for all of your tool proficiencies right away at level 3. So immediately you hit level 3, you are expert at everything. You know, all of the tools that you can use, you are expert with those. It's kind of a... I mean, sure, the class as a whole in its Unearthed Arcana iteration didn't really have much else to work with other than these tools and infusions. However, now it did get a little bit more toys to play with, which makes it progressively better as you keep up leveling up, instead of just waiting between low levels and high levels. At medium levels, it definitely gets a couple more toys. Now, the right tool for the job is kind of the reworded, the right cantrip for the job, but obviously the right cantrip for the job is a more generic level 10 feature, and now that feature has been kind of reworked, remodeled. It works in a different way, obviously. You don't get the option to change your cantrips, however, you get the option to change your tools. Now, sadly, and unfortunately, the importance of and effectiveness of various tools greatly depends on, first and foremost, your DM even knowing about the Xanatar's Guide to Everything, tool proficiency rules that have expanded the amount of things and the versatility and even the power of tools effectiveness, usefulness. You know, and even if your DMs know about these, they have to actually allow you, you know, they actually have to use these. I've actually played online and played under DMs who just strictly said no to Xanatar's Guide to Everything rules about tool proficiencies and the extra things you can do. You can get with them by combining the skills and tool proficiencies and added benefits. I think this is a good addition to the game because tools are underwhelming to begin with, just on the basic iteration of the game. And then the Artificer class as a whole pretty much largely revolves around the right tools for the job, as the feature says. So if the DM allows you to play the class, which obviously revolves so heavily around tools, I think there's a good reason to talk to your DM about using these additional tool proficiencies, because if you don't, your class is gonna feel much less distinctive, you know, much less flavorful, thematically different than other classes, and obviously less powerful, right? So these advantages and benefits you get from the Xanatar's Guide to Everything rule set about the tool proficiencies is something that expands the total amount of capabilities that your character has when your character has all of these tool proficiencies. And Artificer as a class definitely gets a lot of tools to play with. In terms of subclasses, obviously at level 3 you get your Specialist. I'm gonna talk more about those after I'm done with the core features. At level 4, 8, 12, 16 and 19 you get your basic ability score improvements. I've already covered tool expertise. At level 6 I think it's a good level to get tool expertise. I don't think making you wait even more than that would make the class underpowered. However, it kind of makes sense to give you expertise with tools, considering that bards at level 6 get additional round of skill expertises. So, so bards at level 3 and bards at level 9 get expertises, the same way that rogues at level 1 and level 6 get their expertises. So, you know, level 6 to level 9, I think it's a good thing. It's definitely gonna make it possible for you playing the Artificer to get double your proficiency bonus with all of your tools sooner rather than later. At level 7 right away, after the tool expertise, you get Flash of Genius. Now, Flash of Genius is just that, it's genius, right? It's definitely less powerful than Aura of Protection, the good old Paladin's defensive feature, which all of the Paladins get at level 6. It's still good because you get to add your intelligence modifier to all of your saving throws, provided that you have the use of your reaction. Now, I might actually have to revert that a little bit, so let's just say, obviously, I mean, if you use your reaction, you're gonna be able to add your intelligence modifier to your saving throw or ability check. Saving throw is definitely more useful because ability checks are usually low impact. You know, you're trying to see something, you're trying to, I don't know, set up a camp or climb a wall or something. So in those cases, I wouldn't waste the uses of this feature because it is limited. You can only use it up to your intelligence modifier. So saving throws generally are a better pick to be used with a feature like this, and I think this is definitely gonna be useful to you because it's a defensive feature, the feature that's gonna help succeeding with stuff that you wanna do or stuff that you want to resist. Unearthed Arcana Artificer did feel like it lacks a few things in mid-levels. If you go back and check the table, it's just kind of like a barren wasteland after the level, what, like level 5, right? It didn't get anything. It's just like ability score improvements, and then at level 10 the right cantrip for the job, and then ability score improvements, one thing from the subclass, and then ability. It's just like empty. And the official release of the Artificer subclass definitely fixed that problem. So, you know, the official one got another subclass feature at level 9. If we obviously check the table and all of that other stuff, you get the Artificer subclass archetype specialist thing at level 9. And then the last subclass feature has been moved from level 14 to level 15. So actually, let me just scroll back to the table so that you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, there we go. At level 9, Artificer specialist feature. Level 10, magic item adept. More on that soon. Level 11, spell storing item. You know, it's pretty much like when you compare these two tables, you can see that the only levels that you don't get anything in terms of features are 13 and 17. In the Unearthed Arcana, it was 7, 9, 11, 13, 15. Like, it was kind of empty in mid-levels. And obviously, all of these core class features, starting with the magic item adept, is definitely gonna make the class more progressively better as you keep leveling up, and it's gonna feel like you get something new every time you level up, which is always a good thing. You don't want to feel like the leveling up is you get nothing but a couple of spells and that's it. So basically, magic item adept is kind of a part of Soul of Artifice. So the Unearthed Arcana Artificer had this good old Soul of Artifice, which is a good feature. It was a good feature. I'm not hating on this. I think this was very powerful. However, one thing that it was kind of a, you know, how many times do you get to level 20? Not many characters do, and even those that do get to level 20, you don't really get the chance to play at level 20 for too long, for too many sessions. Even if you get even if you do get the chance to get at level 20, that it's just like you don't get to use this feature that much often. But the thing that you can attune to up to 6 magic items at once is actually very good. You know, it's quite powerful. And now you get a little bit of that. So magic item adept, you can attune up to 4 magic items instead of being able to attune up to only 3, which is the common thing for all characters in the game. And obviously it takes you less gold and less time to craft magic items. So that's a obviously good thing. Spell storing item didn't get the feature, the spell storing item didn't get changed actually. However, it got moved from a level 18 feature all the way down to level 11 feature. And it is a powerful feature on its own, even at level 18. And now it becomes all the way down to level 11. It's pretty much the same thing. So just imagine the fighters and barbarians who you give one of these items. For example, you put Cure Wounds or Healing Word into that item. And then your intelligence modifier is like +4, +5, and it's double that, it's twice that, so they will be able to cast 8 Cure Wounds or Healing Words, and they are not even healers. So that's just one thing that you can do. It's quite interesting, and level 11 is something that a lot of characters actually do get to, so you will be definitely able to use these additional slots for magic items. If your DM allows crafting of magic items, you will be able to do that at less of a price and in quarter amount of time. You will be able to help your allies or even yourself by storing a lot of spells into them, and you don't even have to have them prepared. So you can definitely combine a lot of interesting ways to use your spells and your magic items just by the fact that you reach the half point of your character level progression. At level 14 you get another attunement slot, so you can now have up to 5, and you ignore all class, race, spell, and level requirements on attuning to or using a magic item. So you're Artificer, and you can pretty much attune to a wizard-only item. You can attune to an item that requires a level 20 for attunement. You can attune to an item that only works on, I don't know, some tieflings or whatever. You know, or only if you have this. This is crazy. This is super potent, especially if you are playing in a high-charged, high-powered campaign where your DM is just throwing all sorts of magic item at you and powerful monsters, and you are just killing everything in front of you, dealing with world-ending threats, hopping planes, you know, going through different dimensions, time traveling, all of that fancy fantasy stuff. By just being able to be even more broken, this is very powerful. Like, just 5 magic items, and then on top of that, you don't even care what type of magic items. It can be anything. It's crazy. And then finally, at level 18, you still have to get something, right? The old one got the spell storing, but you already have that at level 11. Now, instead of waiting up to level 20 to be able to attune to up to 6 magic items, you can now do it at level 18. So it's 2 levels earlier, and then on top of that, Soul of Artifice, you still gain the +1 bonus to all of your saving throws if you are attuned to up to 6 magic items, which you can definitely be attuned to at level 18. Especially, I mean, you can do it on your own just by making magic items that require attunement, but even if you don't do it, your DM most likely gave you or your party at least a couple of magic items that require attunement. And you just attune to all of them, you know, 6 of them, and +6 to all of saving throws. That's just crazy. And then on top of that, as if that's not enough, if you are reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, you can use your reaction to end one of your Artificer infusions, causing you to drop to 1 hit point instead of 0. This is goddamn amazing, you know. Okay, sure, this is not the first instance of something like this being in the game. If you watched my videos for any amount of time, or if you didn't, go check out my unkillable character build, because that one is just crazy. That one can negate getting dropped to 0 hit points up to 21 times, multiple times throughout the day. This is not to that level of power, obviously, but this is still powerful, you know. Being able to avoid getting dropped to 0 hit points and just keeping at 1 by the fact of just ending your infusions and just refusing to get killed or even get close to getting killed. This is crazy, right? If the DM decides to drop some monster with like 8 attacks, you can still end up, you know, with I don't know, 1 hit point if you have some of your hit points in store. So this is definitely very, very powerful. And as if you ask me, this is a proper capstone feature that every class in the game should have something like this. We don't need bullshit like Bard level 20 getting 1 additional bardic inspiration. That's completely nonsensical. We don't need something like, what, like monks get 4 key points if they don't have any? Bitch, please. What, sorcerers get 4 sorcery points if they don't have? It's like some of those level 20 features of the classes that we already have in the game are just completely stupid, underpowered. They don't make any sense for a character that should be at level 20, be at least capable of dealing with some lesser demigods. It's just, yeah, I mean, stuff like this is a good level, an example of a good level 20 feature, and I think it's a high time for a game to get a sweep of changes for some of those classes that we have in game. I mean, sure, yeah, level 20 is not something that happens very often, but still, I mean, just compare this to some level 20 features of other classes. You can clearly see that it's night and day in terms of power, versatility, options, capabilities, and other things that you can do. Let's talk about these specialists a little bit. So Alchemist, official Alchemist, right off the bat. Let me just click it so that we can compare it all nice and easy. Has way better spells. So, you know, it still gets the same things, tool proficiencies. It's kind of like the different thing. They only get one. But instead of, you know, being reserved to that one, which in this case is obviously going to be Alchemist Supplies, you can still choose Herbalism Kit, you know, or whatever other tool, because you are able to use your level 3 feature called a right tool for the job, and just pick and choose your tool proficiencies to your liking. So yeah, in a way this makes sense, and that's pretty much how all Artificer specialists work, and all Artificers, period. Healing Word, much better than Purify Food and Drink. Ray of Sickness, same thing. It's pretty much the same between the two classes. We still have Melf's Acid Arrow, which is a okay spell, not good, not bad, it's just in the middle. Web is much less, I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong. Web is actually awesome. However, Flaming Sphere, I mean, you do need a little bit of damage, right? I mean, you can't just stay around and heal stuff, because after all, you're a half caster. You're never gonna be able to heal as much as clerics or druids or whatever, who specialize in healing. And yeah, I think this is good. You need some versatility in the way that what you can do. I don't think the best thing that could have happened in this case, I don't think Melf's Acid Arrow is something that's gonna be used by the Alchemist. But on the other hand, it does synergize with the feature that I'm gonna be talking about real soon. So at least like leaving it on the table does make some sense. Gaseous form is, I think, better than Stinking Cloud. It gives you more survivability, more options for movement and all of that stuff. Mass Healing Word, I mean, it's better than Create Food and Water, even though that Create Food and Water can help you actually deal with situations where you don't have food and water. But I mean, look, it's just leave that thing for clerics, right, and all of the other characters that have access to this spell, paladins, right? Blight Death Ward, it's the same thing. Cloud Kill and Raise That, no change here. Raise That, I mean, I would hate to see this spell removed, and I'm glad they didn't remove it from this class. That pretty much makes sense, because you are actually dealing with alchemy, and at level 17 you should be able to raise somebody from the dead, you know, you should be able to revive people, characters, whatever, whoever dies, so it's a good thing. Alchemical Homunculus became an infusion, and that's basically a level 2 feature if you choose to learn it. Instead we get experimental elixirs, and you can make these once or twice or whatever amount of times per day for free, and then on top of that you can choose to spend your slots even on higher levels based on the fact how many you can make. They are a tad bit too random, but all of them are good, so you and or the party will definitely benefit from them if you choose to share them with your party. And Alchemist in a way is kind of a support character to begin with, so just by the fact of you gaining this, whatever you get from this table is gonna be good. If you have a monk, give him more movement speed. If you have barbarian, give him more armor class. If you have, I don't know, any of this is good, obviously. So it's a good thing. Whatever you get, it's always gonna be relevant. Alchemical Savant. Now, Alchemical Savant is basically sort of a half of Alchemical Mastery. But Alchemical Mastery has been split into 2 features, and then all of those 2 features have been kind of modified. And you know, it's a better fit for the theme of the subclass, in my opinion. And it also kind of provides you with better spread of options, capabilities and powers as you keep leveling up. Chemical Mastery is a bit of a weaker version of Chemical Savant. It's a level 15 feature compared to level 14. In that regard, it's kind of weaker, but on the other hand, you not only get greater resto, you get the heal spell as well, which you can cast without expending a spell slot. So it's like, it's a trade-off, you know, you get it one level later, but you can cast another spell. So all in all, I think this is a good, this has been an overall improvement to Alchemist. Before, it pretty much was a homunculus using thing, which needed quite a bit of level to get the spells which are useful. I mean, these spells are kind of very situational, you know. When do you need create food and water? I mean, if you do, yeah, it's useful. If you don't, I mean, it's just a dead spell. Here, you are pretty certain that sooner or later you're gonna be mass healing wording, flaming sphering, healing wording, all of that stuff. You know, all of these spells are pretty versatile, and you will use them very, very often. And then on top of that, obviously, all of these things are obviously being able to deal more damage and heal a little bit more. You know, cast lesser restoration, all of that stuff. It's a good thing, you know. It's definitely a good thing. So, yeah, I think this is a good improvement to the class. I think this makes the subclass very useful, and if you choose to play it, I don't think you're gonna be behind on the power curve. In fact, you're gonna be quite effective at what you do, based on the fact that you are gonna be supporting your party, but at the same time, you're actually gonna be decently useful in combat as well by dealing damage, healing, and all of that stuff. With that said, Artillerist, whatever it's pronounced, is the least. It received the least amount of changes because the Unearthed Arcana Artillerist is actually quite capable on its own, and it's a good thing. One thing that happened obviously is that we did lose Archivist. It's no longer officially supported, so yeah, I don't think Archivist was a good thing. It was an interesting concept without going too deep into it, but it was all over the place. There was no synergy with core class features and subclass features, and even though that it did some things good, the spells were lackluster, and I think shelving this concept was probably a good decision, you know. These three subclass options are more than enough to cover the wide variety of things that artificers are kind of thematically supposed to do. So yeah, Wizards of the Coast only needed to adapt Artillerist to the subclass as a whole to seamlessly fit with the core class features that have been introduced in the official release of the subclass. You still have the same spells pretty much. I mean, everything is the same. The features are obviously slightly different. So, you know, as you can see, Shield, Thunder Wave, Scorching Ray, Shatter, it's all the same thing because these spells are pretty good on their own and there's no reason to change anything. I mean, for one, Wall of Force is, if not the most broken spell in the game, most overpowered, most completely game-breaking one in some cases. If it's not the one, it's definitely in the top 3 or at the very least top 5 most broken, game-breaking, overpowered spells in the game. Arcane Turret is pretty much Eldritch Cannon with the slight change. You can no longer at level 3 command your turret, in this case Eldritch Cannon, to self-destruct. You now have to wait a couple more levels. There's also a change in the size, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere in here it says that the size of the thing is small or something, I don't really know. Medium, even medium, yeah, now it is actually tiny. You know, small or tiny. Obviously, you make it tiny, so you have a hand cannon, basically, right? That's it, you know, you just put it on the side next to you and, you know, pew pew, boom boom, blast blast. And Flamethrower got a slight increase in damage. Before it was 1d8, now it's 2d8, so it's not as much, you know, you can still roll 1-1, but on average it's gonna yield more damage through the continued use of this thing. So there's not much of a change to that other than that. And obviously on top of that, don't forget that you can use Mending spell, which is a cantrip, obviously, to heal your cannon, in this case, for 2d6 hit points. I like this mechanic. So, you know, even though it might be... Look, one thing that, for example, Beastmaster Ranger misses is the fact that you cannot really heal your companion or whatever. This pretty much feels like a mechanical companion, but which you can continuously keep spawning, making, using. And then on top of that, you don't even have to lose it. You can just, if it survives the battle, if it survives the trap, whatever thing that damaged it, you can just heal it with the cantrip, which is a free use of the spell. It doesn't require the spell slot, so it's a good thing, definitely. Arcane Firearm is obviously kind of a remodeled, rehauled wand prototype, which has been again kind of split into two features. So, you know, instead of giving you these cantrips, which you can do whatever the fuck you can do before, I don't even know. It's once you finish a long rest, you get these like woodcarver's tools to carve special sigils in wand, staff, or rod, and thereby turn it into an arcane firearm. So basically, you gain a boomstick, right? So it's a certified boomstick. You get out the wand. It's a more straightforward arcane. It's a more straightforward feature. I think it's a good thing to have. I don't think it's a buff. It's just like it fits the theme of the subclass better. And then on top of that, Explosive Cannon finally gives you the feature which has been removed from a level 3 and then made a level 9. But then on top of that, you can also buff your damage slightly. It's not a lot of damage, but it is relevant at level 9. Whenever you can just passively roll a little bit more damage, it will definitely compound. And none of the three artillerist subclasses feel like they are burst damage dealers, like they are Nova characters, even though they can definitely be if you choose to just like burn all of your slots, especially with an artillerist like Fireball. Do we need anything else, right? At level 9. So yeah, level 9 is definitely gonna be a considerable power buff in terms of dealing damage, being offensively combat oriented in that regard. So Fortified Position finally got a buff, as you no longer have to spend 2 actions to make 2 turrets, cannons, whatever they are, but you only have to spend 1, right? This significantly improves the action economy and increases your maximum damage per round, something that Unearthed Arcana Artillerist kind of missed at higher levels. Because the class as a whole felt like, you know, the class as a whole in medium levels, mid levels, kind of missed something, you know, right? Cantrip for the drive, I mean, you're just changing one cantrip for another. All cantrips are pretty much the same in terms of the damage, you know. Yes, some of them deal a little bit more, some of them deal a little bit less, but the ones that deal less damage usually have the better damage types, you know, less resisted damage types. So in a way, it's kind of the same thing. Here, you definitely, in terms of your core class features and subclass features, definitely feels like you're progressing in terms of the stuff that a subclass that's called Artillerist is supposed to do, which is shoot things from afar, deal damage, you know, blast stuff out of in smithereens, burn, you know, just pyro everything to the ground, right? So it's definitely a buff in a way, you know. It's just been changed, modified to fit the subclass and the spread of the features better. It doesn't feel that much more powerful because the core feature that I consider your capabilities are still your spells. This is gonna definitely be the most impactful thing you can do, because just like dealing so much damage early by just casting the spell is gonna speed up the time required to kill the monsters, to deal with the enemies, to deal with dangers and threats, therefore indirectly helping your party by that party or even yourself not getting damaged by your enemies or other threats that you're having to deal with. So yeah, that's it about Artillerist. Now Battlesmith is, like, Unearthed Arcana Battlesmith is quite mediocre. It had a couple of good features. However, those features were kind of in a sea of very mediocre other features. So, you know, first and foremost, the Unearthed Arcana Battlesmith had very underwhelming subclass-specific spells. Too many smites, too little versatility, not nearly enough defensive features as I would like to see in a class that's kind of expected to be in the front lines and just like go be in the face of the enemy. just by the fact of the design and the intent. That's at least how I read into this subclass. I might not be right. Let me know down in the comments. Maybe you think I'm not correct, but in any case, I think it's correct because, first and foremost, instead of Searing Smite, we get Shield, right? So Shield increases your AC. It's the same thing as Artillerist. Artillerist gets a shield as well, but I mean, it kind of makes sense, obviously. For Battlesmith, it makes sense as well. Like, it doesn't matter that both classes have the same spell. I mean, give it, right? It makes sense because both classes are sort of expected that they have to deal with enemies, sometimes in melee, maybe even unwillingly, unintentionally. So just give it a shield spell, right? Why it doesn't have to be a different spell for each subclass. Obviously, there are a couple of smites still left in the list, but we don't really need Blinding Smite, you know. Give us something else. You already have Branding Smite and Banishing Smite. Do we really need Blinding Smite? Do we really need not like 4-5 different smite spells? 1, 2, 3, 5. Yeah, we don't, right? Just remove those. Aura of Vitality. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a very good spell. That's pretty much, I mean, it's a ridiculously good healing spell, but you know, you still get it, and I think this is a good addition regardless. It was just kind of covered with all of these suboptimal choices. I mean, there's only so many smites that you can do before you're thinking, why do I even have so many? Well, now you have a little bit of an AoE. Conjure Barrage has been taken from Ranger, so that's good. Aura of Purity is still the same thing, but Fire Shield, it's a kind of a defensively, offensively oriented thing. If somebody decides to hit you, they take fire or cold damage in return. And Mass Cure Wounds is still there, as is Banishing Smite. I mean, it's an okay list of spells now. It's more balanced, it's more versatile, you have more different things you can do, and all of that is fine and dandy. Battle Ready was the feature that in Unearthed Arcana was good on its own. I don't think there should have been any changes to this, so it's pretty much the same thing in the official release. Now, Steel Defender is basically buffed up Iron Defender. If we compare the two stat blocks, which I am gonna do real quick, you will notice that there are a couple of changes which are mostly for the good, which make this thing better in both defensive features and offensive features. So, as you can see, the Iron Defender, which was Unearthed Arcana Artificer Battlesmith, didn't have any death saving throw proficiencies. The Steel one does. The Steel one also has Athletics proficiency, which is gonna make it better at grapples, better at escaping grapples and all of that stuff. It still has the same immunities and all of that stuff, so all of that is good. In terms of offense, the damage is the damage level is the same, so 1d8 plus 2, but it deals force damage, and as we all know, force damage is the least, it's one of the best damage types, if not the best damage type in the game, because there's really like only a handful of monsters that are even, I don't think any monster is actually resistant to force damage, other than some homebrew monsters that your DM comes with. But there are a couple of monsters that are immune to force damage, so that's definitely a thing. Here, though, force damage is definitely gonna be something that you're gonna be very reliably, that you're gonna be able to rely on much better than piercing damage. Now, the defensive pounce is pretty much deflect attack. I don't think there's any difference other than just different wording, differently named feature. But all in all, this does feel like a slight but relevant improvement, obviously. Because saving throw proficiencies come up, damage types do come up, and all in all, that's a good thing. Now, extra attack, something that's been kind of like a core class feature with all Artificers before, level 5, Arcane Armament, pretty much just like extra attack, is now a level 5 subclass feature for Battlesmith. I think it's a good thing, because extra attack is something that other classes don't have, but they do have their own ways at level 5 to keep up their damage output in one way or another. You know, both Alchemist and Artillerist at level 5 can deal more damage using their subclass feature, so in a way you have your own too. You can go for the ranged weapons, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. I just think that if you go Battlesmith, You don't really have to go in melee. Melee is definitely inherently more dangerous, but if you want to keep your Steel Defender more useful, which does rely on melee weapon attack, if you want to keep it more alive, you know, alive longer, you definitely need to be closer to it, and then Mending spell, another thing that you can do, obviously, similar to Artillerist, which is pretty much the same as it was before. So healing your defenders and cannons with Mending spell is just amazing. I think this is definitely a good design choice, design concept, and yeah, you will definitely, in my opinion, want to be in melee just to work better with your Steel Defender, to kind of like riff off of it. Now, Arcane Jolt is kind of like the same thing, but the difference is that you get it at level 9 instead of level 6, and sadly, I think the damage increase doesn't justify, isn't as high as it should have been, based on the fact that you now have to wait 3 more levels to get the same feature, which deals just marginally more damage. Nothing would break if Wizards of the Coast increased this extra damage and healing, obviously, that you can do. Especially because it's a long rest feature, so you can only use it a couple of times before you run out completely out of your uses. And at level 15, you know, at higher levels, this is definitely not gonna be felt as much as it does at level 6. However, you know, sure, at level 5 you do keep your extra attack, you do get a better Steel Defender, and in a way you get better spells. I'm not gonna lie, I mean, you have much better spells than you had before. So in a way, it's kind of, I don't know how to put it. Maybe they thought it might be a bit too much to give it 2d8 force damage and whatever. So, whatever. I mean, I just think that it wouldn't break the game at all if they just decided to, you know, give it a little bit more damage than just like on average 1. So yeah, that's about it. Improved Defender at level 15. Again, they did give it a +2 bonus to armor class compared to just 2 benefits before. Now you get a third one. I don't think that 17 armor class compared to 15 armor class at level, 15 is gonna be felt that much, because at level 15 it's reasonable to expect that the DM drops a monster that has like a +13, +15 to hit, and then pretty much anything other than a natural 1 is a hit. But, I mean, it is an improvement to AC, it is marginally better. I don't think it's gonna come up. Regardless of that, this is something that does buff off your defender, which is a large part of this subclass, and as a whole, Battlesmith does feel like the least powerful option, least effective one at what it's supposed to do than the other two. That said, I think overall it's still better slightly than it was before in the Unearthed Arcana release. So, you know, if you choose to play it, you're definitely not gonna be, you know, relegated to a lesser smite machine, sort of, you know, through all of these spells, and then just like weird heal damage dealer, which doesn't even heal as much as Alchemist, but also doesn't deal as much damage as Artillerist. You are sort of there, just slightly less less capable of doing those two things compared to Artillerist and Alchemist. Now, that said, it's kind of in a simplified way. Alchemist is more on the healing side and support, and Artillerist is more on the offensive damage, obviously blasting thing into nothing. And Battlesmith, kind of in a very simplified way, is in between those two things. So maybe just having one generalist feature, like Battlesmith is by design supposed to be, because, you know, protection, you know, back together defenses, you know, Battlesmith defending, repairing, aiding, some of the damage, whatever. It is kind of a okay subclass. It's not gonna be as powerful in damage dealing, not gonna be as powerful in healing, but it's gonna be capable of doing both of those things. That said, let's quickly go into these infusions, because these are somewhat akin to Warlock's invocations, in a way, just like basically in a very simplified way you can describe things, but they obviously differ in level and item requirements and obviously all of the other stuff. These are basically magic items that you make for yourself. So comparing one to one, let's just close all of these things. So yeah, there we go. Boots of Winding, Path is pretty much the same thing. All of this is sort of the same. I think they are slightly reworded to make to be more clear in the way what they are supposed to do, to avoid confusion and some, you know, some confusion and maybe exploits or loopholes that are possible. But the thing that we kind of got, and I already mentioned before, is we don't have many-handed pouch anymore, but we got in return Homunculus Servant, which was pretty much a feature that all alchemists before had as their subclass feature. You know, all Unearthed Arcana alchemists had Homunculus Servant. Now it's no longer their subclass feature, they get those elixirs. However, all alchemists or all artificers can now learn Homunculus Servant, which, you know, is definitely gonna be a good choice for alchemists specifically, because Battlesmith and Artillerist have their own thing. You know, they have their Eldritch Cannons and Steel Defenders, which they use with their bonus action. So in a way, it's kind of even counter synergy, because you already have a bonus action to use with your own things. Why would you get another thing that uses the same action economy? You can still do it though. I think this is definitely still the best choice for alchemists. That said, you know, the biggest change are the different level requirements for replicate magic items. Magic item infusions. So instead of waiting 12 and 14 levels to get expanded list of magic items that you can create, let me just scroll this down. Now, instead of waiting forever, right, like you get to level 12, a lot of campaigns end at level 12. So instead of that, at level 6 right away you get an expanded list of items that you can make. And then even before level 12 you get another expansion at level 10. And then finally at level 14 you get the final list of magic items that you can make. This definitely makes a list of items that you can make more accessible, and you need lower levels to get more items that you can craft, replicate, whatever you want to consider them. There are also a few new Eberron specific magic items on the list instead of these base magic items that we got with the Unearthed Arcana release. I think this makes sense. I mean, some of these are even racially locked, so Arcane Propulsion Armies, I think it's a Warforged. Yeah, sorry. So creature missing, but there is one item that's Warforged only. Yeah, so one sheath is a Warforged only item, and I'm not gonna talk too much about whether that's a good or bad thing. It's just something. I mean, there's still a lot of items that you can make with or without this one, even if you are not a Warforged. But it's something that the Wizards of the Coast decided to do. So you know, it's something that we have to think about for the future, because we might actually. This is definitely a precedent. And by this thing actually being officially mandated in this regard, it definitely makes it a precedent for future releases of other things, you know, whatever. Armblade is another, I think, Warforged, yeah, another one. So, yeah, anyway, that's it for these infusions. Not gonna talk too much about them, because that will probably last another hour, and you know me, I can never stop talking. However, let's just quickly talk about these treasures, which is definitely something that's gonna come up, especially if you play in the Eberron setting. Now, dragon shards aren't magic items themselves, but they are crystals imbued with magical energy. These are used in the creation of magic items, crafting of magic items, and the performance of certain rituals in Eberron, or even if your DMs allows the use of these in their own homebrew world settings or campaigns. So magic items, you know, a lot of magic items came up. Some of them are even on the Artificer list, as you can see. Even Armblade, the first one on the list, I think, that Arcane Propulsion, I think that's somewhere in this list. Let me just see. Yeah, there we go. So once you hit level 14, you can actually replicate this one. Now, I'm not gonna go into each and every one. There's a fair few amount of them. I think they're interesting, definitely. A lot of these are actually common because Eberron is kind of not too much of a high-powered magic, even though it does exist. There are legendary items, rare ones, very rare ones. But most of the stuff is actually common and uncommon, and that actually brings us to this everyday magic items. Now, there are some of these machines, whatever that thing is, not gonna talk too much about those. It's just like mostly setting specific, but if your DMs decide to use these, give you these, or whatever, do something with those, you might actually encounter them, and it's actually better that we don't even go too deep into those. If you decide to know more about them, you always have the option to just learn it, to read into it. But what I want to talk more about is buying these common magic items, because in a way Artificer class kind of revolves around magic items. You know, even some of your crafting stuff is not necessarily better by crafting magic items, but it's definitely gonna expand your capabilities. You can still make a lot of your own magic items, and you're not gonna feel the missing of being able to craft them using the basic rules, explaining Senator's Guide to Everything and Dungeon Master's Guide. However, if your DM allows you the creation of magic items and all of that stuff, and the use of these dragon shards, it definitely expands Artificer's specific capability and flavor, because obviously you have certain boons and benefits and buffs in terms of how much you need, how much gold you need, and how much time you need to spend on creating of these magic items. So, you know, I think this all in all is a good expansion to the game. Good expanded list of options for character creation, for playing the game in ways that hasn't been played so far. Obviously, if your DM doesn't allow you this, all of this is in vain. You can just keep dreaming. However, I mean, with internet, there's a lot of things you can do and play in different games, tables, settings, homebrew worlds, and all of that stuff. And before I continue talking a little bit more about that, if you are still listening to my video, I am very glad that you're still with me here. That's definitely gonna help my channel, because believe it or not, actually YouTube cares how long you watch my videos. So, thank you for that. And if you're still here, you like the things that I talk about, and maybe if you even disagree with some of the things that I talk about, let me know in the comments down below. I certainly like to talk with people, hear your opinions. I never claim to know everything about the game, because I don't think anybody knows everything about the game. This system, even though it's been simplified compared to previous editions of the game, is still actually, if you read into this, if you spend some time, there's a lot of complexity into this. So I like to talk with you in the comments, and if you have something to add into the discussion, let me know definitely, and I'll do my best to respond in a way that I just feel about your comment. You know, maybe I agree, maybe I don't, but through some discussion, that's how we learn and obviously get better understanding of the system as a whole. And that's kind of the idea behind my channel and all of my videos. Again, like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button, consider chucking a buck my way if you're still interested and even slightly considering the option of that. That said, I am gonna announce something here which I've been thinking about lately. So as you know, holidays are kind of coming up, holiday season. So in a couple of days we will have our good old Black Friday. I think it's like November 29th this year, or every year, right? So basically, yeah. Oh no, it actually can be every year, because Fridays don't happen on. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Ignore me. It's November 29th. That's it. That's all you need to know. So basically, yeah, I am gonna be releasing. I'm gonna be starting, or at least hoping to start, another group of my weekly game, and because I have some extra time right now, so I'm considering actually starting a new group. And some people actually asked me whether I have more slots, and sadly for them and sadly for me, because I actually like DMing my homebrew campaign, I didn't have the game running at that time because there simply wasn't enough people, and sadly I just had to let those people know that, you know, hey, sorry bro, the game is full, and if you can't play at that time, you know, sorry, I don't have a spot for you. That said, for November 29th, I am gonna have a special deal until the end of the month. So starting from November 29th and then November 30th, obviously, I am gonna have like a 2-day discount on my home weekly game. So it's gonna be like, I don't know, 45 bucks or something like that. So it's gonna be like 25% or something like that. So basically a Black Friday discount for my home campaign, weekly homebrew campaign. If you are interested in playing in my campaign, go to my channel. There are a couple of videos that I already released with some of the highlights. In the next couple of days, I am gonna be releasing a couple more highlight videos, which you will kind of get the basic idea how I run the game and a couple of funny moments that happen over the last 3 or 4 months that I've been running the game for my Sunday group. And yeah, basically you are gonna be on my private Discord channel. We are gonna have a day and a schedule set up. And in that regard, I am gonna ask you to at least leave me a comment down below and let me know that you're at least interested in something like that, because I need to set up the scheduling in before obviously we go forward with all of this pledging and monthly payment subscription deal. Obviously, I mean, if you can't play, if you don't have the time, it's not just gonna be possible for you to play because of the scheduling problems, and that's obviously something that often happens with D&D. However, in a day or two, I'm gonna set up a form using Google Forms, or I don't know. I don't really know right now how I'm gonna set up, but I'm gonna ask you to let me know in the comments down below so that I can consider you, and then sometime down the road in the next couple of days, I am gonna send you the form where I'm gonna ask you when you are available, when you can play, and you know, what are the days and hours that you're available. So definitely, you know, stick around for that. Let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, with that said, that's gonna be it for now. Hopefully, again, you liked my presentation of this video. If you're interested in me talking about the content like this, definitely let me, you know by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all of that fancy stuff on YouTube. Hit the bell notification. That's definitely something that you need if you want to get notified of all of my future uploads. And yeah, with that said, that's gonna be it for this video. I'm gonna have another build video done soon, a couple more campaign highlights, hopefully not too many spoilers, if you're interested in my campaign as I've just talked about. And yeah, that's it. So like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button. Once again, that's pretty much what you've been doing so far, a bunch of you. So yeah, that's what's helped my channel the most. I am thankful for that. Consider chucking a buck my way. It's not mandatory, it's an option, but the option is always there. And with that said, MinMax Munchkin out, and talk to you soon.